the team that you have is more equipped to feed you the right information so you can take the right decisions, right? What I'm going to talk about is how my life changed as I progressed in my journey, and what is the most important part for either a CIO or a CTO is the mindset, and how that mindset gets built so that you can take decisions that matter to your organization and not end up taking tactical decisions. Like anybody else in India, I come from a middle class family, right? When you're graduating, you feel like you want to be a CTO, right? It's a glamorous position. You all feel that, oh, once you reach there, wow, it will look so good. And when you're doing a mountain climbing, you know, when you reach to the peak, you can hardly see anything. You can't even make out if it's a village or it's a town, right? When you're very high. And that's what happens to us as a CTO and CIO. Many things we don't get to know, right? Because you're so high up there, you can end up taking wrong decisions. And if you are not fed with the right information and the right mindset, both is required, you may land your organization into a not so good situation. So I'll talk how I started my journey and what changed for me. I have 25 plus years of experience purely on technology. I have switched my roles between management and IC, and I still did just recently. I've gone through most of the time, it's a startup. Even when I was at Lucent and Alcatel, we were actually serving as a startup to some other company. I work for Press Play's initiative, which is today's, you see Spotify, right? Press Play tried this in 2001, digital licensing for music. It didn't succeed because they were ahead of time. TiVo, set-top boxes. When I was relocating from US to India, I talked to the founder of TiVo, or actually the CEO, Ramsey, and I said, I'm moving to India and I want to expand in India because I know my mom, my dad, my cousins watching TV all the time, right? It's a very good business. I can expand. And he said, you know what, China is a big market. Not India, our research says. I'm like, okay. Again, I was not bold at that time. I didn't think that I will start it. 4 years later, I see this Tata Sky and all this kind of, I'm like, shit, I missed the boat. And probably I would have missed this boat many times. Then at Yahoo, I was a principal architect, largely focusing on data, user analytics, publisher analytics, advertiser analytics, search analytics. Then moved to InMobi. I had to move to InMobi because Marisa Mayer was shifting everything from Bangalore to US, and I didn't want to move to US because my wife didn't want to. So obviously the decision was taken by somebody else. At InMobi, then I thought, okay, why not learn about this advertising on mobile, because mobile was picking up back then, right? So I said, okay, let me learn more about mobile, see how the world is going to shift, and I learned quite a bit. And that was my Yahoo, InMobi, and Walmart is my transformative journey, and I'll talk a little more about it. And now I'm at Walmart as the chief architect. And many people ask me, why did you leave from a CTO role to an IC role? So back then, when I joined InMobi, I was focusing on all this small query optimization, how to make things faster, how to make application faster. And all I realized is, somewhere I'm solving a problem without really knowing what the business is about. Am I really making that impact? So when I used to go to the meetings, and I'll see, Naveen Tiwari, who's the founder of InMobi, he'll talk things, and I'm like, he doesn't know what is happening. Piche database chalta nahi hai barabar, application is not set up right, and all those things. And when I'll go and talk to him, he will hardly give a damn about it. I was not able to understand. This guy who's a founder should know why things are not working, right? Not working the way it should. I'll say, figure out ho jayega. It will happen. And he was right. Business moved on. It grew. It's a unicorn, right? First unicorn of India. A lot of things worked. And I started to think, what is it that I'm missing? And then there was a time when there was this initiative that he wanted to do, and it was called product discovery through advertising. It's a very expensive proposition if you do not have your own property, right? Because imagine if I have a 1 million product and I have a 50 million user, If the probability of a user clicking is even 10%, that means I have to show 10 products to one user. Just multiply that number, 10 million into 1 million into 10 times. It is just not feasible business, right? That's when I started to think that me focusing on tuning those P's versus me taking the right decision, because I'll be losing money every day if I'm not thinking business first. Because my decision of technology, my decision of algorithm, my decision of choices that I'll make, how to do, what to do, when to do, it depends on what objective I have in mind. What goal am I trying to fulfill? Even if I'm running from 100 millisecond to 10 millisecond, I may still be guzzling money, maybe faster. So I need to make sure what problem I'm trying to solve. Then, we know that back then there was multiple data centers, right? We all know the 3, 5 data center DR. We wanted to make sure we are not dependent on one data center and stuff. Most of the time what was happening, one data center shutting down, another center coming up. You have to migrate your data because you have to move to a cheaper one, cheaper location. I'm sure most of you would have gone through it back then. I think when I was at Yahoo and in MobiV, and then eventually had a cloud. Today I see people talking about cloud cost, the cost that you will incur when I transfer my data. Yes, cost is important, but you should also see if you are enabling a business of 100 million, and if you are taking a cost of 1 million, don't worry. But if you are enabling a business of 1 million and taking a cost of $500,000, then do worry about it. So I just want to give a perspective. Think that what opportunity you're missing, that otherwise, if you don't take that decision, you'll be back in the whole competitive advantage that you can create. And I think I hear almost every CIO, CTO, engineering leader say, business keeps asking, hey, I wanted it yesterday, and you haven't delivered it. I will lose the competition, or I'll not have this business of 10 million, 100 million. I'm sorry if I'm using million because I mostly work for the US organization, but maybe it's in some few crores or few hundred crores that happens in India. Everybody wants it now. And you know what? The business and product are very, very smart because they reach to engineering all the time, only when there is a problem. I don't know how many of you experience this, but you get called only when there's something not working. When things are working, I don't know whether you even get a call or even get mentioned. You know why? Because we as an engineering org have always reacted to the incidents, to the pain points. Because we feel somewhere that we are important and needed when something happens. We have to change this mind game. We have to be there before the problem happens. We have to be there when there's a business strategy happening. Because if you're not part of a strategy, you will always be responding to the situation. You will always be doing a catching up game, and you will not be asking the questions that may actually change the business strategy itself. And that happened with me at InMobi. But before I go there, one thing I want, and it's not that I'm going to tell something new, you guys already know, but we get into this run of the mill so much. We keep reacting, and we forget that not everything is important, not everything is urgent. Even though the product and business may come and tell you that this is important, this is urgent. Yes, for them it may be important. Yes, for them it may be urgent. But if you zoom out, because you have 100 things, if everything is important and everything is urgent, what does it mean? Nothing is important and nothing is urgent. Because this cannot happen. Even today, when we use the processor, right? It doesn't run parallelly. All instructions are not run parallel. All the instructions are pipelined. Just because it's so fast, you think it's running parallelly, but it's not. Hence, you need to be mindful when people come and be after you, I needed it yesterday. You can say, yes, here's my capacity. And we all talk about this cloud compute, right? Capacity. Don't we auto scale up and down? I want you guys to also think the only way to change this game is ask them, what is important for you? If this is important, what are you willing to drop? We don't ask this question as an engineering org. Somewhere we feel if I do, I'll be in the good books. And sometimes being nice is not so nice. And the same thing happened, like I said, in Mobi. I was with Naveen Tiwari is the founder, in China, and he wanted to expand the remarketing business in the ad tech space. And we were sitting at dinner. He took a tissue paper, he took a pen, and started doing some scribbling. 15 minutes later, I see a $1 billion business plan that has to be achieved by the end of the year. I'm not kidding. $1 billion in a year from 100% loss-making business, which we have tried in India, and we are talking about making it happen in China when we don't even own the publisher, so-called users. I also got pissed, me. He said, why 1 billion? Let's make it a 10 billion deal, right? That I started to think innovatively how to reach to that 1 billion. We made 100 million, that's a different thing, right? I wouldn't have made 100 million also. And my decisions were very different when I'm thinking of a system that I'm going to build. And the only reason I could make 100 million is I was part of the strategy thinking how to get to $1 billion, right? And I want this room to understand your decisions are dependent on what your goal is. If you do not know the goal, you will be dragged to whichever peak the business is taking you. And I'm not saying business has an ill intention, right? Business has its own reasons to go where they have to go. But then, many times, product will come and say, oh, you know what, I didn't ask that feature because I thought it was very difficult for you to implement. And by the way, the feature that he asked was more complex to implement engineering-wise, but the feature that could have been a much more bigger value creator would have been done much more easier. And we missed that. The reason is, even product doesn't involve you in the thinking when they are thinking of a feature. So if I had to give the advice to that guy 10, 15 years back, that Rohit, I would say, think big. Because if you're not thinking big, you're not taking the decision that will take you to the higher peak. You'll be taking those decisions which are tactical in nature, solving the problem here and now, maybe in a 3 month or a 6 months. But your goal is 3 years, 5 years down the road, right? This is something that I always believed in, and I'll continue to believe till I live. Serve the purpose of the master, not the master. Because if you're serving the master, you do not know the purpose. Your creative juices will not flow. You'll not be able to take the decision and even make a bolder decision for that purpose. What will happen is, master may have a mindset and will drive you in the same thing, but your strengths are very different. You come with a very different perspective. You are very unbiased in the way you look at the business. You may ask some critical questions, right? But if you know the purpose, like I knew the purpose about China, $1 billion revenue, I was thinking that day in, day out. I was not thinking how to make Naveen happy. Because if I had done it, he would have been happy, but I wouldn't have reached 100 million. Because he would have had something in his mind that 10 million हो गया तो भी चल गया पर push तो करके देखते हैं कहाँ तक जाता है. And I think that happens many times. And be a learner, stay humble. Just because you become a CIO or a CTO or an engineering head doesn't mean you have all the knowledge. Today's generation has more knowledge about how to get things done. And I'll tell you one simple thing. And this is how the product decision changes, and that's how the engineering decision change. My daughter, when I was, I think I was listening, this music app, this Wink and a bunch of other things, right? My daughter said, oh, Dad, why don't you use Spotify? I'm like, why? No, it knows what you want to hear. That's a product requirement. That's an engineering decision, right? That you should know, based on the information, that what your user wants. And that's the thing, if you know, you will make sure that you have the right data team, right data science team, right AI team. And you'll not focus on, oh, where my data is, I am collecting, it is 10 terabyte, it will cost me this. No, let it cost. But once you have this mindset from these younger generation, saying that, oh, it knows which music I want to hear, you have actually created a space in that mind. And nobody can take you out easily unless somebody also knows equally well. And that's your product proposition, and that's in your engineering decision. Hence, make sure the junior folks, like I have a guy who I work with, he's like 10 years younger to me. I go in the meeting and I say something, and he's very honest, because I'm also honest, I like honest. He says, sir, आप पुराने ज़माने की बात करते हो, दुनिया बदल गई है. You can do this thing this way. Do you know about this? Instead of me pretending, हाँ यार पढ़ा था, हाँ कुछ, I'll be sound more stupid, because that guy is smart. He knows what he's talking about. I say, okay, मेरे को link भेज, मैं पढ़ लेता हूँ quickly. Then we'll discuss more. That has made me earn his respect. He respects my decision capability because I have an experience of something else to be able to take certain decision. And he's equipped for certain things that I can leverage. And that's what I mean. Be a learner, stay humble. And I have been successful with this approach. I do not have problem to go and talk and say, nahi aata hai mujhe, batao. And that makes you a powerful leader, because you are now taking decisions based on the collective intelligence, not just one person. With that, what do I have today as me? I believe in purposeful coding. I do not let people take decisions without they knowing what they're building for. And I'm sure you guys also have engineers. Product आके कुछ बोल देता है, ये screen बना दो, ये workflow बना दो. I think 80% of the time your engineers will end up building a UI. Sometimes they don't even do a spell check, right? And then somebody in product QA, if you have QA, many people have eliminated QA, will realize that this doesn't make sense. When it goes out, it doesn't work. And immediately when it goes out, within 10 days, you have few more screens coming or few more UX changes happening. Why? Because nobody thought about it. We decided only a product will think, right? But they're not equipped with some special skills, right? When you are building, become a user. I become a user when I think for a Walmart, right? I try to say, hey, does it even make sense? And I'll tell you one simple story. There are a lot of, and I'll not share the real information because Walmart doesn't allow me to, but there were times where we're seeing attrition of our membership thing. And there was a simple thing in the UX. There's a shipping tip charge. You have to put, in US you have to give tips to the person, not mandatory by the way, optional. The box was so cryptically done in UX that first you click, then you scroll, then you say, I don't want to give tip. Otherwise, it was by default some number. And users thought, or customers thought, that now you're forcing me to pay tip because you want to deliver free to me. Just imagine the simple box, right? Whereas the competitive player has ended up making a simple box. Just edit there. Just click and it becomes an editable button. And if you talk to engineer, oh, product asked it. We did exactly what they asked. Okay, now do you go and buy? No, I will not. Like, why the hell you didn't say at that time that why are you making it so tough? That's why this purposeful coding is so important, that you know the purpose for what you're coding. Because otherwise, all your effort for 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, 1 month, whatever it is wasted. And imagine if you have 100 developers, 1 month, 100 into 30, 3,000 man days lost. And you are anyway struggling to have a competition. Be the value creator. There's an incident that changed my life, and I'll always live with this again. I went, again, like I said, right, I wanted to be a CTO, so I was being a VP of engineering. Our SVP or engineering head left in InMobi, so I went to Naveen, the founder. I said, I will lead the engineering. I know the best. I can tell you the problems that are there. You don't even know. I'll fix it. And he said, you know what, Rohit, I don't need you for that. I want you to help me with this, which I said, right, 100% loss making to some 30% profit in like 6 months, to take care of that business by solving with platform. As usual, you know, when you go for a CTO and somebody says no in a polite manner, you think गोली दे रहा है, right? Because नहीं तो दे देता ना, सबको ही पता है उसको ज़्यादा पैसे मिलते हैं, ऊपर है, बॉस कहलाता है, right? He's saying no. I was very upset, but then I trust him. So I started focusing on that. And like I said, right, in 6 months we converted 100% loss making to a 30%. And I'm talking, me as a tech saying, you know, loss making to business, not talking about tech at all. It's because my decisions of the tech were based on these. And I did this a year later when he saw we beat the competition in India. 2 companies almost came to us that we can buy them because we stole their business and stuff. That guy, the engineering head there, came and met me like, what did you do differently? Right? We have been there in the market for 4 years. The point I'm trying to drive is 2 years later or 1.5 years later, Naveen said, I want to give you a CTO role. And I'm like, what changed? You said it's Ned. He says, no. You are the one that I found who bridged the business with the tech. And I want my CTO to think business while does the tech. And he said, you have been the value creator. That's when I realized the power of value creation. Nobody can get, you know, promoted in an organization 2 or 3 level so quickly. And this is not even a promotion, by the way. This is a change of a role completely, right? And that's when I realized the value of the power of being a value creator. Because now you are not valued by your next levels, like, you know, VP है तो senior VP बन जाएगा ये बन जाएगा. You're now valued कि अगर problem है इस बंदे के पास जाओ, and he will get you the answer without worrying about whose job it is. And then you have earned the seat at the table. And I think you were talking about it, right? You have to earn the seat at the table. If you're not in that, like he said, right, you have to report into the CEO, you are not going to make the decision that will take your organization to a level which will give you a pride. And the third, this is another thing that I see in the industry happening, that I feel crippled, like I'm an IC now, individual contributor, right? I don't have an engineering team directly reporting to me. But then I talk to, you know, the SVP or a VP in my organization. They feel the same. They feel, oh, you know what, I asked these things, I don't know why it takes this long. I'm not able to get this thing done. I've told so many times it should perform, it should have a good quality. I don't get it. There's this feeling constantly that I don't have it enough to get to where I want to. But the problem lies that if I decide that I have enough to take the right next step, I will change the game. I myself as an IC feel sometimes I don't have an engineering team, so what will I do? I don't stop myself. I started podcasting in my own company to say, here's the problem, here's how I'm thinking, here's how I'm trying to. And to my surprise, and this was when I was in US traveling for something, I just one night sat and wrote some email. I got instant responses. People volunteered saying that I want to participate if you're doing this. I want to do this. Tell me what problem, no matter how small the problem is. That's when I realized that many actions, as we as CTO, CIO, engineering lead, IC, believe that we do not have the enough empowerment. I think as a CTO, CIO, you might feel that, you know, outside, if you step outside the room, talk to any engineer, say, आपको कौन रोकेगा, आप तो जो decide करोगे हो जाएगा. But we as a CTO, CIO know that हमारे decide करने से कुछ नहीं होता, बहुत explanation करना पड़ता, right? We feel that we don't have enough to take the next step. But once we get into this thought process that I have enough to take the next step, there's one big shift in the mind that has happened, is that awakening of abundance. You have enough workforce, you have enough intellect, you have right context, like he said, right? You need a context. You need your team. You have your team. You're the one who hired those, right? You have the business context. You know what the purpose that your business is after for. All you need to do is believe to take the next step, no matter how struggling that is. And I give this example. When you're doing weight training, right? You struggle with that load that you pick. What does that happen with that? The muscle is under stress. There are micro breakages, and that muscle grows, and you become stronger. Until you put yourself in that tough spot to take next step, no matter how uncertain you are, but you have to move forward. You can't stagnate. You take that one step forward. You will learn that you're struggling with something, but you'll build new skills. And I can guarantee, year over year, month over month, day over day, when you do it, there's a different confidence that you carry. You're no more insecure. You're no more less confident about achieving the target that you have, which you didn't believe that you can. Like, I never believed I can convert a business of 100% loss making, I'm not kidding, 100% loss making to a 30% profit making in 6 months. It's just impossible. I have never done it before when I started to think like this. Let's go, let's do it, right? When we learn swimming, the same thing happens. But if you fear and you don't, kind of move, you will lose, you will not learn. My only request to this room full of people who are the enablers of tomorrow in this country, and this country is growing, is to believe that you have every damn thing to move to the next step. Yes, you will have challenges. Yes, you will have troubles. But if you decide to move forward, you will solve the problems for the organization who is investing crazily in you and your team. And you will make that engineering stand up to the point where you earn the seat at the table, where you are governing, participating to take the right decisions at business strategy. That's all I have to say. Thank you.